Today's story is about how we tend to see God as kind of a distant thing, like a federal government agency, as something that's distant and confusing, and sometimes the rules he sets forth don't make a lot of sense. We tend to see God as somewhat imposing, a bit of an annoyance. Today's story is about one such individual who, in the Old Testament, seemed to have seen God in a similar light. Today's story is called Jonah Wails and Tells Some Tales. Now, Jonah was a prophet of God, and God told him to go to Nineveh and to preach to Nineveh. And Jonah, instead of listening to God, left on a ship. On this ship, there was a great storm came up. The people on the ship didn't know why, and so they decided to do something called casting lots. And essentially, this is a way of sort of putting the decision into the hands of God, trying to understand something that they couldn't otherwise understand. They didn't know why this terrible storm had befallen them. And so they cast the lots, and the lots fell on this man Jonah. And so they were sure that he was the reason that this terrible storm had come upon the ship. And they asked him, Jonah told them, that he was essentially running away from God, running away from what God told him to do. The people on the ship decided to throw Jonah overboard, and Jonah was eaten by a whale. For 3 days and for 3 nights, he remained in the belly of that whale. And eventually he got down on his knees. He got tired of the terrible smell, eating only mildly digested fish. He got tired of trying to shoot the boomerang at the little hanging globules in Jabu Jabu's belly. He couldn't seem to find a way out, because, of course, he didn't have Link on his side. So Princess Ruto got captured by the squid monster mini-boss, and Link saddled up on his horse? Wait, what was I talking about again? So Jonah got down on his knees, and he prayed, and he told God that he was sorry for what he had done, and he set out to do right. Now Jonah, in this situation, was responding to consequences that had befallen him for not listening to God. When he prays, he actually makes a vow. He says that he will follow God in all that he does, and he makes this really intense commitment to God, which a lot of us tend to do when we feel particularly down and out. When we feel we're in a particularly bad situation, we'll often make excessive promises to God to get us out of it. So Jonah went to Nineveh, and he told the people that God had told him that in 40 days Nineveh will be overthrown. And Nineveh, all of the people of Nineveh, listened to him. They even made decrees and laws. The leader of Nineveh made decrees and laws. And his reasoning for these laws was not, well, we have to change. The reason he made these laws was because maybe God will hear of it and protect us. Rather than making some sort of a vow or some sort of a decree based on the consequences that they had already faced. Nineveh heard this warning, and they changed all of the rules that they lived by because of it. What a contrast to Jonah and his attitude. And of course, as a result, Jonah got angry. In fact, Jonah was so disappointed that he was suicidal. He said, "Let me die, it would be better than this." And Jonah revealed that this was the entire reason he didn't want to go to Nineveh in the first place. The entire reason he went on that ship, the entire reason that he fled on that ship, was because he knew that God would be gracious. He knew it. He understood that this was how God worked. And Jonah, in his frustration, he went to a cliff, which... this is getting to be an odd theme, these cliffs overlooking things. And Jonah, he went to the top of this cliff. He went and looked over Nineveh. And as he sat up there in depression, sort of mourning, God decided to teach him a lesson. And so God sent this large leafy plant, and he grew it up out of the ground, and it happened overnight. And Jonah was grateful because this plant was providing shade. And on the leaf of the plant, a bud grew, and a delicious, tasty gourd grew out of it. And Jonah was grateful that the gourd grew out of it because it satiated his hunger and it alleviated his thirst. But then God sent a worm, and the worm ate the gourd. And then he sent a harsh wind, and that wind scorched the leaf and made it wither. And the wind and the worm, they destroyed the plant that had grown overnight. And Jonah cried out again that he was suicidal. "Just let me die! Stop toying with me!" And God asked Jonah, "Is it right for you to be angry about the gourd? I made the gourd, not you. Should not that anger be mine? And if that anger is mine, as your God, should I not have that much grace, that much anger stirred up in my heart to protect the people whom I made, to seek that they be fruitful and not wither?" You see, Jonah was looking at God as if God was just this distant, rule-making force. And he wasn't thinking of God as an empathetic, caring individual who had great interest in what he had accomplished and the things he had created. Now, if you're interested in this story, I truly encourage you to go and read this story for yourself. And if you like the way that I have shared this story with you, and you'd like me to continue, express your thoughts about it, let me know in the comments below. Subscribe to my page. If you can, help me out on Patreon so that this content can continue to be made.